I'm Selene Speaks and welcome back to my channel. Who did the 14th Amendment really protect? And is it being exploited today? Let's break down its original intent and what has gone wrong. Stick around. Just a quick reminder that this is a fair use video. I will be providing my commentary and or criticism, so let's get started. Before the 14th Amendment, the Dred Scott versus Sandford Supreme Court decision ruled that Black people, whether free or enslaved, could not be U.S. citizens. But at the time, there was no guarantee that the previously enslaved Black people would have equal rights, the same as white people. Listen to me closely. Southern Democrats started passing Black code laws. These were laws that were designed to restrict the freedoms of Black people. The 14th Amendment was designed to protect Black Americans and their rights after slavery. My dog is literally going off right now. I don't know why every time I get ready to press record, every bird, delivery truck, and my dog. Therefore, the 14th Amendment was ratified in 1868 as part of the Reconstruction era. The Reconstruction era was about rebuilding the country and protecting the rights of the previously enslaved Black people. If you're not privy to the 14th Amendment, I will log into LexisNexis and go over it with you briefly. In Section 1 of the 14th Amendment, it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That's very important, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. So all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So going back to that phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that phrase was crucial for excluding those who had a loyalty or allegiance to a foreign government. But for the previously enslaved Black people, their allegiance was undoubtedly with the United States, making this clause essential in granting them citizenship. So to reiterate that point, the 14th Amendment was a vital safeguard that was designed for the full rights of previously enslaved Black people, ensuring that they were recognized as full citizens. And not only was it designed to grant full citizenship, it also implemented due process and equal protection under the law for citizens born and naturalized into the U.S. Yet recent immigration debates have initiated questions about the true intent of the 14th Amendment.
Well, so on birthright citizenship, the question is not just birthright citizenship writ large, it's do people in the country illegally that birth kids, do they get birthright citizenship? Because I would imagine the majority of people in this room got citizenship by birth. Your parents are American, you're born on American soil, you don't have to fill out paperwork, you're a citizen when you're born. That's the way, and I don't think anyone's questioning that in respect to American citizens. The issue is was the 14th Amendment written with the intent that someone could illicitly cross a border, birth a child, and then that child becomes a U.S. citizen? Clearly, that was not what they were looking to do. What they were looking to do was overturn the Dred Scott case from the 1850s, which basically Dred Scott was a freed slave, and he basically lost in court because they said you can't be a citizen because you're Black. Lincoln criticized that. Lincoln ran against it. Obviously, we fought the Civil War, and then when they did the post-war amendments, 14th Amendment citizenship clause was to make clear that you couldn't discriminate on race with respect to citizenship. It was never intended to apply in situations like this. It was also a different time period, though. We didn't really even have a lot of immigration then, so they probably weren't even thinking about it. But clearly we know that most of the judges are going to be hostile to the Trump executive order, because you're taught in law school that it doesn't matter, you can parachute in, birth tourism, and do it, and somehow that's fine. That's what they teach folks. I don't think that's the correct interpretation of the 14th Amendment. So I mentioned the other day on the social accounts, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's never actually decided the issue, as if you have people here illegally have a child, is that birthright citizenship. People will point to the case of the Chinese immigrants in the 1890s, but they were legally here. And I do think that that distinction matters. And then they said the child of the legal immigrants was birthright. But birth tourism, where people just come from a foreign country with no connection to here, have a child, and it's a citizen, that is not what that was anticipated to do. So it's going to end up in the Supreme Court. And I think the question is how many votes are there to kind of reevaluate that historical, although I think wrong, understanding that people have been taught in law schools over the years that somehow it doesn't matter, you can parachute in from anywhere you want, and that's what birthright citizenship is. That was not the intent of the 14th Amendment. That was not how it was originally understood, and it's created a huge negative incentive for people to come. And there is a birth tourism industry, but it also helps facilitate illegal immigration, because if people think if they can just get here, have a child, then it's kind of an anchor, and then they can never be sent away. And so I think it's created a lot of problems. So it's going to work its way up. I don't know how many votes on the court to reevaluate it. I'm confident there'll be some, but eventually this is going to be, I think there's going to be a reappraisal of this eventually. Maybe it's on this executive order going to the Supreme Court. Maybe after a couple new justices are put on. Who knows? There could even be a constitutional amendment. But most people look at that, and we're one of the few countries, I think there's only a handful that have anything like this. Most other countries do not do it, and I think it's created a lot of negative incentives here in the United States.
As a reminder, the 14th Amendment's original intent was to protect those with legal and historical ties to the United States, not to grant citizenship to children of individuals who enter the country illegally. Unfortunately, birthright citizenship has been exploited by undocumented immigrants who cross the border with the sole purpose of having anchor babies. These children that are commonly referred to as anchor babies open the door to chain migration, allowing extended family of undocumented parents to gain legal immigration status. Some would argue that it sounds like one big scam.
I want to kind of hit off of what Congressman Norman said earlier. I mean, think about this. 1 out of 10, 400,000 on average are having children birthright citizenship. Now, Dr. Rose, I'm not a lawyer, but common sense tells me that these folks ain't over here on vacation, y'all, and just happen to go in labor. They're coming across that border down there illegally, and they're using us like the international piggy bank. Well, two things are about to happen. Number one, that border's going to be closed. Illegal immigration, don't come across it unless you come across it legally. Number two, if you want to come into this country from now on, this is America first. Come over here, help assimilate, and advance the American culture. Otherwise, stay at home. It's a new day in our country. The American people are demanding that we are a nation of laws, and you come across the border legally, or you go back home. With that, I thank you, and I'm going to turn it over to Representative Weber out of Texas.
Thank you all for bringing this bill up. People say to me from time to time, Randy, you don't like him, you just are against immigration. And I look at them dead center and I say, no, I'm not. I wouldn't be here without it. My grandfather and my great-grandfather came over from Germany on the boat in 1903. We have the manifest. My grandmother to Texas, they went through New York and came to Texas. My grandmother's family came over in 1845 and settled in Central Texas. If that hadn't happened, I wouldn't even be here. But folks, they did it legally. So I want to thank you all again for bringing this up, Dr. Babin, this Birthright Citizenship Act. Let me tell you something. 22 states are suing to block Republicans from overturning this deeply flawed policy. The policy is so deeply flawed. If you've read the 14th Amendment, if you remember the time frame that it took place in, I'll give you all a math quiz. 14th Amendment. Can any of y'all tell me which amendment preceded the 14th Amendment? Any math majors out there? Of course, the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. The intent of our founders and our members of Congress back then was to make sure that African Americans got a place in America. Now, I've talked to judges, some of them in Congress, that said, well, no, birthright citizenship is part of the 14th Amendment. I said, look, just because some court has interpreted that doesn't make it right, doesn't make it law. The courts and the judges get it wrong. Supreme Court gets it wrong all the time. They actually ruled that African Americans could be counted as 3/5 of a citizenship for census records, right? The courts don't always get it right. Here's the truth. The 14th Amendment was never intended to serve as a blank check for illegal immigration. It was never intended to grant citizenship to the children of people who broke our laws to get in this in the first place.
This abuse of the 14th Amendment burdens taxpayers and it overwhelms public services. The Trump administration sought to end birthright citizenship for the children of undocumented immigrants. The focus was on reinterpreting the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment. Courts have upheld that those who were born in the United States on U.S. soil is deemed as a U.S. citizen. However, there is this other concern about people who don't have allegiance to the United States. Unfortunately, because the immigration system has been used and abused, and I'm sure at the time that the 14th Amendment was ratified, no one ever thought that we would be where we are today. And unfortunately, the Biden-Harris administration allowed unvetted migrants from any and everywhere to flood into the United States, often with children. These people were set up to fail, and my heart goes out to them because they were taking advantage of a system that was set up for them to take advantage of. There were homeless veterans and United States citizens who could not get the resources they needed, such as housing, food, healthcare, all of those types of things. There was catastrophic damage that was done from Hurricane Helene, and now we have the California wildfires. Yet, the Biden-Harris administration funded proxy wars and used taxpayer dollars to provide federal funds to undocumented migrants. Just remember, if you want to immigrate into the United States the proper way, you need to do it the way that the law tells you to do it. They're not saying that you can't immigrate here at all. They're saying that you need to do it the legal way. Trump definitely has his work cut out for him. And I want to briefly discuss why the 14th Amendment cannot easily be changed. The 14th Amendment is a foundation for constitutional law, and it cannot be undone with a single executive order. They may even try to take this to the level of the Supreme Court, which we know is the highest court of the land. So it could take a year or so for it to reach the Supreme Court if it goes in that direction, because they are definitely trying to challenge this birthright citizenship as it relates to undocumented immigrants. So it will be very interesting to see where this goes. How do you feel about the executive order that challenges birthright citizenship of undocumented immigrants? Are you for it or are you against it? And what thoughts do you have about the original purpose of the 14th Amendment? If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Also subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with someone else who likes this type of commentary. And until next time, thanks for watching.